Hi everyone. So today we have with us someone who's had a great career in HR. She's been to Acceleri, she's worked for Vodafone, Philips, PepsiCo. I'm pretty sure some more organizations as well. And now she's been running Marching Sheep from seven, I think 7 years, 7 or 8 years. Marching Sheep is an HR advisory firm and it's doing great. We have with us Sonika Aaron. Hi Sonika, welcome to HR
Hi,
Perspective.
thank you.
Yeah, so today's topic is employee well-being, right? And it's such a difficult topic. Like I actually had to write questions on the paper. That's how it is. And it's difficult because a lot of people don't acknowledge that it exists, like the issue exists. People do acknowledge that there is something called employee well-being, but people are like, there's no issue with it. But we wouldn't be talking about it if there was no issue with it. So do you agree it is something of an issue with people?
I wouldn't say that people are not acknowledging anymore that it is an issue. I think the pandemic has opened the Pandora's box. People and organizations did start acknowledging it. In fact, in 2018, WHO did declare that burnout arising out of anxiety and stress is a disease. And a lot of organizations did put in place something known as EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program, wherein employees could reach out to counselors anonymously in case they had any need for counseling, etc. There were a lot of stress management workshops as well that were happening. Having said that, there is a taboo in the society when it comes to acknowledging that I have a problem. At an individual level, yes, that taboo still exists. So if I am taking or seeking help, or even acknowledging that I need to go and seek medical help, it takes a lot of push, sometimes a lot of counseling. Sometimes family members themselves would say that क्या जरूरत है, योगा कर लो, वॉक कर लो, म्यूजिक सुन लो,
Get some sleep.
हाँ, get some sleep, छुट्टी ले लो, घूम आओ कहीं. Why do you need all this? हमारे टाइम पे तो ये सब कुछ नहीं होता था.
Right.
But times have changed. The kind of stressors that we have in our life, the kind of lifestyle we are leading, times have changed. That is one. Secondly, at an organizational level, if you look at what's been happening for the past 15 months, the kind of turbulence that people have experienced in their life, change from physical way of working to virtual way of working overnight.
Right.
Last year, a lot of people were laid off, went through salary cuts, went through the insecurity of saying whether I will have a job at the end of this or not, what will be my financial security. My company is going through restructuring, I don't know what will happen. There were furloughs, there were deferment of payments. There was a lot happening. People were not taking leave, people were working longer hours, there was blurring of lines between personal and professional lives, there was social isolation. People were staying away from families. So people are at different life stages, right? So think about someone who is staying away from family, staying alone in a PG accommodation, staying in a single room, all alone,
Right.
working with no outlet, versus somebody whose family is in one location, he traveled for work and got stuck somewhere, and he's been there for 6 months.
Right.
Right? So there were various different situations, and plus there was insecurity related to work. Then there were women who had to deal with added domestic chores, online schooling, unconscious bias saying that their priority now would be work. So lot was happening. And then just when we thought that the vaccine is out,
Right.
the number of cases are low,
Yeah.
Holi manai, सब कुछ किया, and then the second wave struck, which was far more lethal. And we all know what happened in the month of end of April and May. So everybody is struggling right now.
Right. So a lot of times it is advertised in organizations that the CEO or the upper management has an open door policy. But in reality, that doesn't work, because even though the doors are open, but no one is willing enough to actually walk the door, right? People are hesitant. I think it's the same with the issue of well-being. The companies can put out policies, they can talk about, okay, like if you have something, do come and talk to us, but nobody is going to do that because people are probably scared, people are afraid, people just don't want to be the person who wants to admit like they have something like that. So how do you maneuver around that as an organization?
So Anubhav, see, let's break this up. Okay, let's break this up into managerial capability. Let's break this up into policies. They are two different things. Okay. First of all these policies. Okay, let's again take the example of all the policies that have been put in place right now to ensure that employees feel good, employee well-being is taken care of. So
Right.
there are these Zoom free Fridays, meeting free Fridays, your open door policy, etc. Right? Now, all these policies have been put in place keeping in mind that employees need them. Correct? So somebody has taken cognizance of the fact that people are struggling.
Right.
So first of all, there is cognizance of the fact that people are struggling.
That's a start.
Yeah, that's a start. That's an acknowledgement.
Right.
So that's there. Now we need to understand that this phase that we have gone through was never a part of any managerial development journey.
Yeah, that makes
Nobody
sense.
was trained in it, how to deal
Right.
with it.
Right. Because it never used to happen and nobody used to realize there is something like this.
It was never no part of no leadership journey, no managerial development journey, no people effectiveness journey. We only started talking about emotional well-being 2 years back, 3 years back. Nobody used to even talk about it. It was a taboo subject. So now when we expect managers to suddenly become empathetic, to show vulnerability, to show empathy, to show transparency, to show authenticity, people are not trained.
Right.
Right? Now, when we say, okay, you should not have Zoom meetings or any kind of meetings on Friday, it's a policy. For this to translate into action, your people need to accept it and implement it. I know for a fact that a lot of organizations who have implemented this policy, on ground, it does not really happen.
Yeah, it's like working hours are, let's say, on average 8 to 9 hours, but people are working 10 or probably 11. And I read this report the other day that a lot of people in India are complaining that work from home has actually become a bigger problem, because now there is no end to the amount of hours they're working.
So I'll tell you, for example, you have a sales review on Monday morning.
Right.
What does that mean? It means that your sales team is making reports over the weekend or presentations over the weekend.
Yeah, because it needs to happen on Monday morning.
Because it happens on a Monday morning. So where is, I mean, a very simple example, somebody said कि यार weekends तो off कर दो, Friday free, Zoom free meeting मत करो Friday को, but कम से कम Saturday Sunday तो मत काम कराओ. Right? A simple statement from an employee who first reads the policy which says no Zoom meetings on a Friday.
So I want to ask a very direct question from an employee's perspective, right? Let's say if an employee is going through something like this, where probably they have to work overtime, not even getting paid, not even getting recognized, something like that, or some other issue. How do they go about, putting this problem out in the open to the top management or the CEO or anyone else in a way that they don't get penalized for it? Because I think that is something people are really scared of before talking about an issue.
So see, one will have to look first of all, I don't think there would be an organization where people are not getting paid, people are, इतनी drastic situation कहीं नहीं होगी कि यहाँ पे बिल्कुल पैसे नहीं मिल रहे हैं फिर भी काम करा रहे हैं, and but it could be that there are long working hours, there is stretch targets, and so on and so forth. So first of all, I would say that in such situations, organizations need to do three things. One, they really need to build leadership and managerial capability on building psychological safety in teams. They need to be able to drive authentic leadership where people can speak up what you said. So if I am reporting to you, Anubhav, and if I am having a problem, I should be able to come up and say कि boss मेरे घर में problem है,
right,
and I need to take this day off without fear of you thinking that I'm shirking responsibility, or I am not committed, or I am not productive enough, or I can be laid off. Right? So this capability of building psychological safety, this needs to be built in all leadership and managerial cadre. It is the need of the hour. The second is, we need to recognize that the second wave has impacted just about everyone. Just the other day, I was speaking to a client and she said that there are people who have recovered and come back, but they have gone through such a bad experience when they were sick or their family members were sick. They were not getting ICU beds, or they were not getting oxygen, or they were not getting medicines, that now that stress is making them behave erratically.
Right.
It is showing in their behavior in the form of aggression, or in the form of withdrawal, or some way or the other. Now we need to make our workforce emotionally resilient. Sessions on emotional resilience at this time are very important. And by that, I don't mean topical is, I'm sorry for saying this, but a lot of sessions on stress management talk about deep breathing, yoga, mindfulness. For everybody, you and I are different individuals.
Right.
Let's understand that if you and I are different individuals, you and I will have different stress triggers.
Also,
just 1 second. Yeah. We will respond differently to different stimuli. We will have different coping mechanisms. You might respond to yoga, I might respond to something else. So we need to identify those. It's a life skill which we need to learn. One stroke for all folks does not work. We need to enable our employees to identify, firstly, what is my stress trigger? How do I respond to stress? How does it manifest in my behavior? And therefore, what is my coping mechanism? If we teach them these 4 things, they will be able to sail through any kind of setback. And a resilient workforce is a happier and more productive workforce.
Right, because that makes sense. So just to add to something, I think on a broader level, and this probably applies to things outside workplace as well, the bigger challenge is that we humans in general, we see adults as something that should know how to deal with life problems, right?
Yeah.
So we don't expect them to have an emotional breakdown, or let's say we don't expect them to have these sort of situations where they're just breaking down. Because they're like, you're adults, you should know how to do this, when it has nothing to do with how old we are or how young we are. And if people can start seeing it that way, they will also realize that, as you said, we can't just give them a solution in terms of what to do. We can't just tell them like, okay, do yoga. And it's like I have no money and my friend is like, well, just earn more money. But that's not a solution, right?
Beautiful.
That's not going to help me out. And that's what we do generally. Like if someone is struggling with weight issues, people are going to tell them like, just lose the weight. But of course I know that, but how do I go about it? Because my problem might be different from someone else. Maybe I'm running around, maybe I'm not losing weight. So I think that's how like you beautifully put it up, that we just need to understand that we can't just have an online session, gather people and just give them 10 solutions, because that's not going to work. So makes sense. Like one of my questions was actually, how can we create an environment of psychological safety? But you just answered it. The next question is, it's borderline sarcasm, I think. A lot of companies promote their culture these days. It's for a lot of reasons, because companies obviously content is the king these days. Companies want to engage communities. And a lot of brands do talk about, having ping pong tables at their offices, having this, having that. And as an employee as well, I do like it. But is it good for employee well-being? I think that's a different question. And that's something we don't do, because we relate it to something that employees should like. And just because they like it, everything should be good in their work life. Or there are ping pong tables, or there are parties on Fridays, or there's a team call every day and they're communicating. That's how we see it. Just because something is happening and people are liking it, it should solve the problem of employee well-being as well, which is something I don't believe in. So I would just want to hear from you, like, what do you think about it? And like, yeah.
So let me put it this way. If I have a headache,
right,
yeah, I'll take a Disprin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's just a headache, it will go.
Yeah.
But if I am having a headache because I have a toothache or a tooth decay and it is going up, it's traveling up, then my headache will not go away, or rather it will keep coming back every time the effect of the Disprin wanes off. So all your ping pong tables or your coffee places or your bean bags, etc., are like Disprin. Right? So you want a short break while you're working, you want to just take your mind off for 5-10 minutes, you want to stretch your legs, they are great.
You want to have a conversation with your colleague, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Or you just want to be yourself and you just want to think about something, you want to, just play or whatever. They're great. I mean, nothing against them. But if you are genuinely struggling, you are having serious stress in your life. You're having very long hours, you're not able to manage your time, you're having problems with your manager, or you're having problems with your peers, or you're having relationship problems, then you need to figure out, this is my stress trigger, which is causing these kind of behavioral, cognitive, XYZ kind of issues.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is causing these problems in my life. What solutions do I have? No amount of ping pong table, sipping coffee on the bean bag is going to remove that stress trigger from your life.
Right?
So I can keep popping in Disprin, but my tooth decay will not resolve itself with Disprin. That's one point. The second point is, I have often heard CEOs and engagement managers and HR managers say, I have such a great recreation room, but employees don't use it.
Yeah. Like we have all the facilities, but no one is using it.
Okay, I don't mean to put you in a corner, but it is often because managers don't allow people to use it.
Or the time that you actually want to use it, you are actually working in those hours.
Yeah, your workload doesn't allow, allocation does not allow. If you are seen playing too much, you are seen as wasting time, you are seen as unproductive. It will impact your ratings, it will impact your bonus. and so many things. Your boss feels that अगर तुम्हारे पास इतना टाइम है खेलने का तो एक प्रोजेक्ट और ले लो.
Right. Just work
Right.
on the weekend.
Which comes back to psychological safety, the manager's capability. So if Anubhav is my boss and he said that Sonika तुम्हारा ये काम है, and he feels that this work makes Sonika productive, she is earning her salary. अगर वो काम करने के बाद मैं दिन में आधा घंटा जाके रिक्रिएशन रूम्स में स्पेंड कर रही हूँ, then Anubhav should be comfortable about it. But many times managers feel insecure about the fact that our employees are spending time in the recreation room, and they pull up employees for that, or they create rift in the employees saying कि देखो वो तो खेल रहा है, तुम काम कर रहे हो.
Right.
So that managerial, that's why I said managerial and leadership capability is extremely critical when it comes to employee well-being. An employee experiences the organization not through HR, not through policies, through the manager.
And I want to connect it to something very bold. Do you think we have this habit of ignoring the good work often and catching what went wrong in the same way? What I mean is that an employee who's punctual every day, right, coming on time, doing great work, we will never acknowledge that. But whereas when that same employee is probably late one day during an important meeting, even for 5 minutes, we'll bring that out. And that is why we just focus on these things. It's like you said, like we talk about a person playing ping pong for 10 extra minutes, right? But maybe that person spent 10 extra minutes every day on a certain project, but we never thought of it, or we never paid attention to it. So we just have this habit of focusing on the negatives more and on the positives less, or maybe talking about it.
It's a very common cognitive error, which is magnification of negatives and minimization of positives. And the same happens with employees as well, no? कि 10 चीज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अच्छी कर रही होगी, एक चीज गड़बड़ कर दी, मेरा इंक्रीमेंट अच्छा नहीं किया तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन खराब है. 10 चीज, मेरे को प्रमोशन दिया, मेरे को ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेजा, मुझे अच्छी इंश्योरेंस दे रही है, all that is fine, but
yeah, you just pick out that one thing as an employee as well.
So that's
they didn't do this for me.
That's human nature.
Yeah. Oftentimes, we talk about work, and I was actually writing an article few days back on this because I was talking to my teammates over this. There's a lot of talk about loving your job satisfaction, your job passionate and all that stuff. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but also I disagree with it. And I'll tell you where. I think what people are thinking is that your job has to be everything in your day's life. When in truth, as you said, like a lot of people who've gone through this COVID experience, who've been impacted by the COVID experience, and they came back to their job wasn't the problem. It was what happened outside work. So a lot of what is actually important in our lives revolves outside work. That doesn't mean we can't love a job, but that doesn't mean our job is not important or we're not passionate about it. But I think companies have to realize that an employee can love their job, but still it doesn't have to be the most important thing in their life. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be something else. Do you think like we can start thinking toward that direction? And if yes, how do we do that?
That's a very interesting one. You know what, Anubhav? Sometimes I reflect, and please don't guess my age, though my gray hair anyways will reveal it.
No, I'm also getting some gray hairs as well. It's like I'm going 50 at 25.
So when I started my career,
Yeah.
and my first job, I thought कि बस
This is it.
नौकरी मिल गई बॉस, मतलब अब तो जीना यहाँ मरना यहाँ टाइप्स, कि
This is it.
किसी ने मुझे नौकरी दे दी, इतना एहसान किया मुझ पर. एंड इट वाज लाइक, सलमान खान की मैं बहुत बड़ी फैन हूँ, एंड मतलब इट वाज लाइक काम ही मेरी पूजा है और पूजा ही मेरा काम है. दिस वाज अ डायलॉग फ्रॉम द मूवी साजन.
Right.
तो मतलब आई वॉज सो पैशनेट अबाउट दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कि मेरा बस चलता तो संडे क्या, मतलब एवरी डे आई कुड वर्क.
Right.
I was that passionate about it. I loved that organization from the core of my heart. आज भी मतलब I'm very passionate about that organization. It's almost like pehla pyar, first organization pehla pyar. But what I see now, okay,
Yes.
is that people believe that their work is a means to the lifestyle that they aspire for.
That's a good point.
Okay, so I am passionate about my work. I am passionate about my career. I am passionate about my growth. But I am equally passionate about going back home, spending quality time with my family, or spending time on doing something which is of importance to me, which could be playing a guitar or playing
Right.
with a band or doing some social work, volunteering somewhere. It could be anything.
Right.
So I do have a life parallel of my work. That's number one. Second, this second wave has made us reflect, because many of us have been very close to losing near and dear ones, and many of us have also, and many of us have also lost, grieved, and many of us have also been victims of COVID ourselves,
Yes.
right? So we have also now evaluated our own relationship with work.
Priorities.
What really is important?
Yes.
अगर मुझे कुछ हो जाता तो वो 12 घंटे काम करना जरूरी है या अपनी बेटी के साथ टाइम स्पेंड करना जरूरी है?
Right.
If I were no more, would my daughter remember me? So those are kind of questions which some of my people that I know have asked. Saying that, you know what? I have given so much to my job. I just realized कि कल मैं अगर चली जाती या चला जाता, my kids probably would not even remember me except for the weekends.
Yes.
And on weekends also, half the time I'm on the phone. And I don't want to live that kind of a life. I want to spend quality time with them.
But there's also the other side where a lot of organizations have actually come forward to help their employees, and these
Yes.
employees have realized that a work is not just about more money, it's also about the kind of people you're working with.
Yes.
The community you have at work,
Community.
because I have seen people literally helping their teammates, whether it's with resources, with raising money, doing their work in their absence. It just shows that, when you're picking work, when you're picking a job, it's just so much more than like asking for more money or asking for more holidays or something like that.
Absolutely. So one point was that it has made people question. It has also made people more humane. So not just organizations. Yes, I think this was the first time where I heard organizations say that we are shutting down operations because we want people to heal. We want people to take a break. It's okay if there is no revenue coming in or no sales happening, but we don't want to put our salespeople in harm's way. This was the first time I heard organizations put completely people first, So it made people more humane. And you are right, teams were working with half strength. I remember I was conducting managerial effectiveness programs with a client, and in one of the sessions, half the participants were not there. And I said, what happened? And they said, they're all down with COVID. And I said, let's cancel this. We will postpone this. We will do it when they're all back. And they said, ma'am, we are all working with half strength, but we will make it happen.
Yeah, I remember an example from my own organization. I was working on something with the sales team, and one of the guys I was talking to, and I was like, can we do this by tomorrow? And he's like, hopefully by day after tomorrow. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I'm the only one who's coming to work. Like, that's it. I'm like, no one else? He's like, no, I'm the only one in my team. So I can totally understand like how it is.
Even with our clients, I remember we were discussing some dates, And I remember telling a client that, listen, we cannot deliver this by end of some month, they were saying. And I said, we cannot deliver because both my team members, they had relatives who were severely sick in the hospital. And I said, I cannot put undue pressure on either of them. And,
Right.
and the clients completely agreed. They said, yeah, at this time, we are completely with you. And the other thing, Anubhav, there were no boundaries.
Right.
So it did not matter. My WhatsApp kept on buzzing. It did not matter if I knew somebody or not. And it's not just about me. I think I got n number of messages which said that somebody messaged somebody, I needed an oxygen cylinder. At 12 o'clock in the night, the bell rang. Somebody dropped an oxygen cylinder. I did not know him.
I can understand. Yeah.
Strangers were helping strangers. That was
Right.
the level at which humanity really, peaked.
So to end, like I have this one question. SMEs especially, and they're thinking like, how do they want to help their employees? Can you suggest some wellness programs, that are quick to implement, obviously cheaper to implement, in a budget, and something which brings about a community feeling in the organization? Like, what do you suggest?
I would just say for them, build their managerial capability. For them, that would be the right approach, because there they would be able to drive ownership, accountability, psychological safety. For them, that is the best approach. And that is something which will hold them in good stead. See what happens with SMEs and MSMEs. Many of them are promoter-led.
Right.
Yeah, and they would not be investing in talent which would be, pardon me for saying this, which might be very polished, or which might be coming from a background where they would have received any formal training or input on managing people, motivating people, doing performance appraisals, and so on and so forth. They would be doing it by gut. Right? Some might be, doing it well. Some might not be doing it very well. Now, if you want to consistently drive a culture which is professional, which is result oriented, yet people friendly, then you need to take all of these managers and you need to train them. You need to build their capability so that they can all go forward and build a culture which is both accountable, result oriented, yet people oriented.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know we've taken like way more time than I asked from you. But just two questions to end. This is something we ask everyone who comes to HR Perspective. In short, what does HR means to you? Like, how would you define it to people?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking in short.
I think HR to me is managing the most valuable asset of your organization.
Right. And the second question is, like, if there are folks who wants to, start their career in HR in 2021, what are the kind of skills you would suggest they should have? Skills, qualities, anything?
Business appreciation, business acumen, first of all. Second, internal consulting. Third, change management.
Right. Yeah, because change is happening everywhere.
Yeah, and I would say the art of alignment, stakeholder alignment.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm assuming functional skills, of course.
Yeah, I think everyone is aware of that in that sense. That's it, Sonika. Like, thanks a lot. If I really appreciated the conversation, thanks for giving me more time than
No
I
worries
asked
at
for.
all. I loved every
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
want to
So
say one more thing, Anubhav.
yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry. And it is, you can choose to,
yeah,
put it wherever you want. I
yeah.
want to talk about vulnerability.
Please do go ahead.
Okay. So, you were speaking about at one point where you said that adults are expected to be emotionally resilient, not break down. The same thing is also expected of leaders and managers.
Hmm.
People expect leaders and managers to know it all, and
Do it
managers,
all.
managers also feel somewhere that I know it all, or I need to be Superman, or I need to be Batman, or Wonder Woman, or whatever. The fact is that end of the day, we are all human beings. We all have chinks in the armor. We are all vulnerable, and we are all hurting.
Right.
2 weeks back, I lost my one of my best friends from school, and about 6 weeks back, I had lost another friend from school. Both of them were my roots from school,
Right.
and I was extremely shaken up. And while I had received the call, and just about an hour later, I got a call from one of my team members, and I was crying. And I immediately told Rupali that, Rupali, I'm grieving and I can't talk right now. And I took an off that day.
Right.
But I told my team very transparently that I was grieving, I was sad, I was not in a place to work. I had a very important client meeting. I let the client also know that I was grieving and I was not in the right space.
Right.
Now, by being transparent and showing my vulnerability, that transparently, I gave the comfort to my team that they could be just as open with me.
Yeah, it could happen to them as well.
It could happen to them, and if it happens to them, they can come to me and tell me without any fear. If I don't fear opening up to them, then they have nothing to fear from me.
Right.
So, as a leader and a manager, we should not fear our vulnerability.
Right.
Right? And that's a very important part of building psychological safety in teams.
And I think that's also a message for all the employees. Like, reach out to your managers or like leaders who you have. Like, just ask them, are they okay? Because we always expect them to send an email or a message or a call or anything, right? And that's okay. But like, if just once a while, even we can do that for them.
Very true. Very true.
Right.
So that's it.
So that was a perfect ending to this edition. And that's it, Sonika. Had a great time. I don't know what else to say. I'm a bit blank actually at this point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonika.